All right, so I've only been doing videos here in the vinyl community, music community, for a handful of months. So this is my first time getting a chance to do the vinyl tag. So I've been seeing a lot of videos, watching a lot of videos recently of the people doing these, and I thought some of those questions I'd have a hard time to fill, but I'm going to go ahead and do my best. And I grabbed a bunch of stuff and gathered it around, so I wanted to go ahead and take part in this. Best find of 2019. So I looked through my things to see, well, what would be the best find? Is the best find considered something you've been looking for? Is it something you bought that's brand new that you just think is a great album? But I decided to settle on the what I think, in my opinion, was something I'd been looking for or hoping for, kind of a grail, but not really, just something I've been wanting to add to my collection that I was able to finally find in 2018. Did I say 2019? 2018. Best find of 2018 was when I got my hands on Tourniquet Psychosurgery. Now this came out, it was reissued a handful of years ago, before I got into vinyl, and by the time I got into vinyl, the first two Tourniquet albums, which this is the second, were out of print, were gone, pretty much hard to find. The third one I was able to score before it went out of print. And then the first one I found later, on eBay or something. Didn't pay too much for it, but paid more than probably what it was when it was new. And then this one I scored this year, so I was happy to get this. It's on blue vinyl. I'm a big Tourniquet fan, and I did a whole video on them, so go back and see what I said about that on a previous video. A shout out to Other VC. There are a lot of channels, and actually I think today I discovered like half a dozen more in the past week or so. I mean, there's a lot of them that I haven't even had a chance to check out some of the videos. So I guess the community is a lot bigger than the people that I have been watching pretty faithfully for the past 6 or so months since I've been doing videos. Some of the ones that I watch all the time or have interacted with a lot that I really enjoy would be some like Steve over at Value Vinyl. We've done a lot of interaction, and I enjoy the fun we've had there. One of the first people that gave a shout out to me when I first started, which helped me to jump my subscriptions, jump like 25, 30 subscribers in like the first couple days, which was exciting. That's Rob over at Black Star Vinyl. Most of these are all going to be known to you all, because some of these people have been around for a while, and a lot longer than I have, and so you're probably not much learning much from me. Anyway, some of the newer ones that I've been enjoying, Melinda Murphy has started doing videos recently. Her numbers have skyrocketed pretty good, because I think it's rare that you have we don't have a lot of women in the vinyl community, and so it's kind of they've got their own little niche there where they're gaining popularity. But I've enjoyed her channel. Fairly new, like I say, only made a handful of videos, but we have a lot of similar musical tastes, and I like her presentation and everything. So she's a new one that you should check out. And then Guilty Forgiven, I enjoy what he's doing over there and a lot of his views. If you haven't heard of his channel, check it out. But there are so many. Like I said, I found some just today. I found a handful of them that I haven't even checked out. But it's just, there's so many. There's just so many. So many. It's hard to keep up. Anyway, what holes are you looking to fill in your collection? Okay, as you can tell, and as I've mentioned before, I don't have a huge collection. I've only been back into vinyl since, less than 2 years. I only have a couple hundred, so the holes are vast. I mean, there's a lot of holes I want to fill. I guess if I had to, there are some bands that have fewer vinyls that I'd like to get. And so I would mention those. Transatlantic, their first 2 albums have been released on vinyl, but I have yet to buy them. I want to say maybe their third album too. I think I might have seen that too. Transatlantic is a kind of a super group that came out back in the 90s. It's got some different prog guys from different prog bands, Marillion and Flower Kings, and Mike Portnoy, who was at Dream Theater at the time, and Neil Morse, everybody knows, is one of my favorites. They released an album, and an album's second album and third and fourth or whatever, but their first 2 I know are on vinyl, and I'm thinking I might have seen that their third one was too. But anyway, So these are some on my want list that when the price is right, I want to get them. But there's so many that I need. I mean, there's very few bands that I have, all of anything by them. There's a couple. Let's see, Adamant. I like Adamant, one of my non-metal bands, and I have a bunch of his vinyls. But it would be only a couple before I could kind of finish that catalog. Helix, bands like that. I need a lot of Kiss albums, and I need a lot of Iron Maiden albums, and Scorpions, and the list goes on. Lots of holes. We won't even go there. It's still a work in progress. All right, a cheap album that is really good. All right, let's show the weird side of me, and I might have shown this already before when I got it a couple months back. David Cassidy, Rock Me Baby. I grew up watching the Partridge Family. Loved their music. Of course, when I got into music in the 70s, I listened to a lot of that kind of music, and then in the disco era, and Grease soundtrack, and Saturday Night Fever soundtrack, and Andy Gibb, and all of those type of bands at that time. The Partridge Family was one of those ones that I enjoyed. Fast forward 30, 40 years later, and I still enjoy the Partridge Family. I have all their CDs. I have a couple vinyls that I've seen in previous videos. And I recently picked up 2 of the David Cassidy solo albums. I have them all on CD, but I have the first 2 on vinyl. And I see these quite often. Usually they're in pretty rough shape. These are in good shape, but usually you can find these, and they're dirt cheap in the thrift stores and stuff. So I think this is, it's a cheap album. I think it's really good. It's all subjective, I know. Favorite side project album. Okay, we're going to talk super groups again, I guess you could say. And there's a lot of them. Transatlantic was one side project for a bunch of bands, but Flying Colors is another similar type situation as Transatlantic. This is a super group. They have 2 albums out. Third one is in the making. I just saw something on Instagram just tonight saying that he was recording some keyboard parts. But a great melodic. I don't even. They're just kind of a pop rock band. What it is, if you haven't heard of them, again, it's sort of a super group. This has Neil Morse on it. He doesn't sing though. He sings some songs, but I mean he's not the singer. He plays keyboards and he sings some songs. And it's got Mike Portnoy, who at the time, would have been Dream Theater, but now he's in so many other bands, Winery Dogs, and he's got his Metal Allegiance band, and he's in Sons of Apollo, and he's in everything. But so he's on here on drums. Casey McPherson, he's a singer actually. He plays guitar. And then Steve Morse of Deep Purple, Dixie Dregs back in the day. So this would be a side project for Neil Morse. It would be a side project for Mike Portnoy. It would be a side project for Steve Morse. It would be a bass player is Dave LaRue. I'm not sure if him and Casey are active in another band. I know they used to be, and if this would still be a side project, but all the guys have main bands, and this is a side project pretty much for all of them. One of my favorites. Looking forward to their third album for sure. Song from an artist that is uncharacteristic in their catalog. I was looking around, because all the time you find bands that do, oddities. But anyway, this one kind of struck me because I know back in the day it got a lot of flack. That's from the Twisted Sister Come Out and Play. Now, this is in the days when Twisted Sister was starting to, the popularity was kind of changing a little here. And they released a video and did a song called Be Cruel to Your School. It was actually a kind of a duet with Dee Snider and Alice Cooper. Now, don't get me wrong. I love the song. I love the album. But the song itself is very uncharacteristic for Twisted Sister. Because it's got horns, it's got kind of a rockabilly type feel. Cool song, but if you compare it to what, Twisted Sister was always kind of the rough and mean, and then they became, they were like a harder edge, and then they kind of became, popular with the anthem rock type stuff. Well, Be Cruel to Your School is a fun-loving song, funny video, Bobcat Goldthwait. It was back in the day when they were making cool videos. But song-wise, music-wise, a lot of people got turned off with the piano and it's got, it's got a lot of famous people playing on it too. So, piano and and just really, really upbeat, fun stuff, but definitely out of character with Twisted Sister's catalog. Okay, next, the last album you purchased. Now, of course, I mentioned this in my last video, and actually there's 4 albums, but I'll mention this again. Riot, Immortal Soul. I picked this up with 3 Metallica albums. Metallica being more popular, I figured I'd show the album that is probably less popular. Riot is a band that's been around since the late 70s. They went through a lot of changes. I believe in this time, really only the guitar players left. They came back with a vengeance here, and recorded this and a couple more albums after this. They changed the name kind of to Riot 5, I guess, or Riot V to some people say, but I believe it's a 5 because it's probably the 5th incarnation of the band. And it's just, it's good, melodic, somewhat of a classic metal. And so anyway, I bought this the other day. Got a good price on that. A great album with the bad cover. Okay, I've got 2. They're both from the same band. People are probably going to be like, oh, that's sacrilegious. How can you talk about that band like that? Especially since they're like probably one of my all-time favorite bands. And it's funny because, it's a great album with a bad cover. And both of these albums are cover albums with bad covers. All right. First we'll start with vinyl. We're talking about Stryper. Now, Stryper, Second Coming. What I mean by it's a cover album is they're covering their own song. So this is a re-record album where they went back and re-recorded the album. Album is amazing. Great album. I have just never been impressed with that. Everybody with the cover, the band looked so pale and unphotogenic. It's just, I don't know. It has never sat right with me, this photo shoot. And the back, is just as bad. And the picture inside, I don't know. It's just the lighting, the lack of, everybody looks so pale. Anyway, I don't like the cover. Love the album, but the cover has been just kind of is like, doesn't look quite right. And the next one would be the actual cover album by Stryper, the covering, front and back. I don't know. I love this album. This is a great album. Now what it is Stryper went back and did a cover album of covering a bunch of songs by bands that they were influenced by when they grew up. So, it's got everything from Sabbath to Scorpions to Saxon, UFO, Kansas, Kiss, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Van Halen, Led Zeppelin, Ozzy. It's a great album. Stryper does a great cover, but I don't know. Some people love this cover. I think it looks very remedial, very cartoonish, kind of almost. I don't want to be too bad on it, but it's just it doesn't look very good. It's not that great. The artwork is, I don't know. I'm not a big fan. I think that it's kind of a turnoff, and so it's just a cover that I don't appreciate as much. So, had to have something to fill that category, right? A bad album with a great cover. All right, let's strike out at one of my other favorite bands. Dream Theater's The Astonishing. I think the album cover looks cool. All, space agey with these like spaceship looking things. Everything about it, the artwork, everything about it. It's a large album. It's a concept album, but honestly, it's kind of out of character. It's one of those things that's where the whole album is uncharacteristic of the band. Most people that I know who are big into Dream Theater didn't find this album very appealing. I am one of those too. It's got some decent tracks, but it just lost me. You start getting into, it's a long album, which I don't mind long albums. I have lots of double, triple albums that are really good, but after a while it just starts sounding the same and starts kind of just dragging on. It's a concept album. The storyline at times gets kind of cheesy, but everything about the cover, like I said, there's maps, there's characters, there's all kinds of cool artwork. All of that looks great, and musically it's pretty good, but it becomes almost rock opera-ish without being as appealing. So honestly, I don't own many albums that I consider bad. That's probably the closest I can get, and it's not a bad album. It's just, it's not a great Dream Theater album. A blues album. No, I do not have a blues album. I have a bunch of blues type cassettes, not cassettes, CDs, but on digital. So I don't have anything to show for that. Glenn Kaiser from Res Band, he's done a lot of blues stuff. Daryl Mansfield has done a lot of blues stuff. I have a Daryl Mansfield CD, but I think even the one I got, Revelation, is more of the when he went really hard rock for an album there. So I don't have any album to show. I don't have any true blues albums like, from the early days. I do not have any of that. I have some blues rock albums. Government Mule, who I did a video on, they're kind of bluesy, but that's kind of a southern rock, blues rock. So I'm not sure if that's going to qualify for a true blues album. So the closest I would have would be stuff like Glenn Kaiser and stuff, which, like I say, I don't have to show anything for that. A earworm song. There are so many of those, but I would have to say now, just recently, in the past month or so, there's been a song that sticks in my head. A brief backstory. My son, who at the time was 18, he just turned 19 last week. I'm sorry, just turned 20 last week. He was 19. Joined a band for the first time. Taught himself how to play guitar. Hooked up with some guys that were still in high school that he knew from high school. He graduated already. Went over and joined the band, and the band already had recorded, I guess it was an EP, and it was just on a kind of cheaper recording. I recorded at home. Anyway, right after he joined the band, they had released a song right before one song. It was on Spotify. Right after he joined the band, a couple months later, they released a new song. So this would be the first song that he's ever played on or recorded on. And, I wasn't sure what to expect. These are teenage kids with today's type of music. It's not heavy or anything. It's not screamo or anything like a lot of kids are. you think sometimes I think. But it was very, kind of poppy, very quirky. Anyway, it just hooked me. The first time I heard it, and every time I hear it after that, and I really, really, really love the song. It's so fun and quirky. It's got some cool time changes in it. Kind of I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. I'm going to give you a clip of it. I hope I don't get in trouble with this because the band, it is an independent release. They are on Spotify. I encourage you to check out the whole song. The band is called The Outskirts. The song is called Breakdown. I'm going to play a clip of it here. They only have a couple songs. They're on Spotify, so you can check them out. It'd be great if you did, and comment below. Let me know what you think. It's my son's band, so I don't know if I'm just being biased there, but I really think the song is cool. Anyway, so check this out.
All right, let's do it.
Maybe we could be together, but you think we're friends. I already met your father when I shook his hand. Maybe when you're dead, maybe we could take vacation. Just a week. Why'd you have to tell your parents that you hate me? Please just leave. I tried my hardest and I hope that you could solve this aching, burning little heart of mine. The seas are parting, dodging punches from the prophets, making profits with production lines.
Okay, so hopefully you thought it was kind of neat too. But that's a song that I can't get out of my head, and it's just constantly. Every time I hear a piece of it, I want to hear it again. I want to hear it again. We went and saw him play a concert a couple weeks ago, and we were listening in the car to that song and a couple other songs over and over. But anyway, all right, let's move on. A historically important artist. All right, let's do this. After just bashing him for 2 albums, I'm going to say Stryper. Stryper is always kind of credited as being the band that kind of pushed Christian heavy metal into the mainstream, or kind of became one of the first Christian metal bands at the time to really break the door down for a lot of the bands to play that style of music. They're still making music. They're still making great music. I still think they're historically probably, again, one of the pivotal names in the Christian metal, rock, metal, whatever you want to call it. Back in the day, it was metal in that movement. And so they are a historically important band. In my opinion, an album you own because of your parents, that I do not. I have nothing. I have nothing there. My parents listened to some music, mostly country, Lawrence Welk, stuff like that. My dad used to watch. They listened to a lot of classic country. But there wasn't much influence there aside from just music in general. They used to watch Hee Haw, used to watch Lawrence Welk and stuff, but I don't have any albums or anything music-wise that would tie in with that. I have a love for that kind of stuff, where I don't mind. I can listen to it and stuff. But I do not own anything because of that. So that's the one question I have. Nothing I can offer. Best dollar bin find was one that I showed in a previous video. And it was actually literally $1. Sammy Hagar's VOA. I love Sammy Hagar. There's some holes to fill there. I have only a couple of his albums, but on CD I have everything. So this was a great dollar bin find. I find a lot of stuff at thrift stores and stuff, which are $1 and under. But that was really great because it's a great album. It's got I Can't Drive 55 and everything on it, and I was like, wow, it's in great shape. Why isn't it in the dollar bin? Anyway, that was a dollar bin find. Favorite double album. Okay, what's tricky about this is what qualifies as a double album anymore? Because with vinyl and 180 gram and half mastering and all that stuff, any single album can be a double album. So I'm not going to count that because it's really a single album. I guess you could look at it as time-wise. But then you start looking at CDs. A large filled CD nowadays, if you got 70 minutes of music, if a band put out 70 minutes of music on a CD, it's a single CD. If they put out a double CD, say in the case of some bands, which I have, they could have 140, 120, 140 minutes worth of music, and it's a double CD. You try to put that on an album, you're going to end up with at least 3 albums, which is exactly the album that I picked now. What I tried to do is stick with the vinyl I had to kind of answer these questions, though I wasn't able to do it all the time. There are a lot of great double albums. In this case, I'm going to pick one that I actually have on vinyl that I still think is a great album. It came out about 2 years ago. It's a triple vinyl album. It's a double CD album, and it's a concept album. And so when it was released on CD, it's a double album. When they turned it over to vinyl, it became 3. The follow-up to this album is coming out like in a month, and that is the new Neil Morris, the newest Neil Morris, The Similitude of a Dream, based loosely on Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan. Anyway, this is currently one of my favorites. I mean, I could mention double live albums. We got Kiss and stuff like that. And there, like I said, there's a lot of double CDs that I really enjoy. But trying to stick with vinyl, that would be currently it's a double CD album, triple vinyl. An album you learned from the VC. I picked 2 of them because of the qualifications on this. I grabbed this Rage album, Nice and Dirty. Didn't know who they were, but like the week before I grabbed this, Scott Waters showed it on his channel, said a little bit about them. I had never heard of the band, never knew them back in the day. So when I saw it in the store, I grabbed it based on his recommendation, and I enjoyed it. So that's a direct connect. The next one would be this Shanghai album, which I have mentioned in the video before too. Love this album. Take Another Bite. Now the thing is, this was in a vinyl room on Facebook, but not by somebody who is in the vinyl community of YouTube videos. But still, it was a vinyl related one of the ones Facebook groups where they do this, and so I bought this based on what I heard people talking about in there. So those would be the two there. Next, a 10-inch record. Aside from having a bunch of old 78s in there that belong to my stepfather-in-law, and they're all beat up, some of them are cracked and broken. I pulled one out the other day and listened to it though, and it was an old version of Just a Gigolo and I Ain't Got Nobody. I want to say it was by somebody like Frank Sinatra or something. It was a version that was really odd. Anyway, I've got a bunch of 78s, but let's stick with modern stuff for this time. Place of Skulls, Love Through Blood. I think I might have shown this on another video previously. I bought this album years ago when it came out. Had no record player, no turntable of any kind to play it on. I just bought it because I love the band. It was only on vinyl, and I wanted to have it just in case. So I bought it. Place of Skulls is a kind of a doom metal band. Victor Griffin was a guitar player for Pentagram, and then he did Place of Skulls. He's back in Pentagram now. And this is 4 songs that were supposed to be on one of their albums, but these are 4 songs that have a Christian message to them, and the record label, Southern Lord, I believe, didn't want them on the album, so the band recorded a couple new songs, took these songs and put them out as an EP of just the 4 songs, and I figured this would be the best way to own it. Of course, later they put them on CD, so I ended up buying the CD, so I didn't really need this, but it's nice to have. And then the next one is Alice Cooper, The Sound of A. It's kind of a single for the album, and it's got a couple songs from his newer album, plus some live stuff. So this is a 10-inch on white vinyl, very pretty. And next, a 7-inch. I only have a handful of these. I'm not a big collector. I have some more modern ones that I got, but I wanted to show this one, I guess, The Crucified. They're a Christian punk band, and this is one of their tapes, Nailed, that they released on vinyl. It's because they're a punk band, the songs are fast, and so they fit 7 songs on here. I had the tape of this back in the day, and so it was neat to have this on vinyl. And actually I've got 2 of them because they come on different color vinyl, and somehow I bought one, and then somebody sent me one extra. So 7-inch. Favorite album to fall asleep. I don't usually listen to music to fall asleep because I'm one of those people that kind of wants to have it more quiet. And I don't have any vinyl that I would probably play to go to sleep to. I don't really have an answer for this question because I couldn't think offhand of anything that I would want to fall asleep to. I have some music that I can play that I trigger on my phone, which is meant to help you fall asleep. I have listened to that, but it's not an album, so I don't know if that would qualify. So I'm going to have to bow out of that question. Favorite VC experience or advice for those contemplating making a video? Well, I don't have a favorite VC experience yet. I'm fairly new to it, but all the experiences have been great. The comments, the camaraderie, the watching others and commenting and back and forth, and the communication, the people that I've met and have become, friends with, you communicate with, and just watching people's lives, and you're able to interact with people. Those are the experiences that are great, that make this whole thing fun. I was listening to some of the other vinyl tags even today, and heard people saying similar stuff. Just, it's like we have this big collection of music that we enjoy, and it most likely, like, my wife is not into this kind of stuff, so it's not like anybody in the family is going, ooh, let's go look through his records, or ooh, let's go through his CDs. And I don't have many friends. I could end the sentence there. I don't have many friends that listen to this kind of stuff either. It works both ways. I don't have many friends, and I don't have many friends that listen to this. So I don't have anybody that I share this stuff with. Nobody that is a friend of mine who's a record collector, or a friend of mine who listens to the kind of music I listen to. So it just kind of sits here for my enjoyment. Well, what does the vinyl community bring? So now it gives me a chance to share with you, whether you're watching or not. Whether it's almost like I do it just as a release for myself. That's the experience. I get to share and get off of my chest the excitement I feel for bands, the excitement I feel for certain products I've bought, the collector's mentality, things that I collected are of interest to me. And then if somebody watches them and comments, well, that's an exciting view there, because now you've got other people. I share something from a band that I think is pretty obscure, and then you find out, oh yeah, somebody else out there has an album. Oh, I love that album. You start, you feel like you're less alone when you have other people that are like enjoying the same things as you. And the records now and the music that sits on the shelf, I'm now forced to go back through it and say, let's look at some of this stuff and see about, we could do a video on this band or that. And when you start digging this stuff out, you start revisiting my catalog of music. I'm bringing the music in from the shed. It's almost kind of like you're starting to bring this stuff back to life, and where it's been sitting around for a while, now you're having to revisit it. So that whole excitement of being able to share and go through my music and go through stuff and my catalog, and then start looking, oh, maybe I need to collect this. Or then you start watching other videos from people and you're like, oh, that sounds like a cool album, and you start learning about bands you've never heard of before, and people are saying, oh, this is a great album, so you look it up. So that whole experience to me has been good. It's been a good outlet for the past few months of doing these videos and interacting with people.